Hello and welcome to the magic of fishing. You join me in early February on the banks of the River Wey, a club stretch near Ripley in Surrey. It's a really mild day considering we're still in the depths of winter. It's supposed to hit 14 degrees this afternoon, and yeah, you join me literally on the bank because I forgot my chair, left it at home, and rather than drive 15-20 minutes back, I decided well, I'll just use my keep net bag and sit on the bank and get back to old school fishing like I used to when I was a kid. So it's calmer, the river. We've had no rain miraculously for over a week now. It's a really wet winter up until recently, and the river's been really high, coloured, flying through, which is okay for barbel, but not a lot of other fish coming out. If you saw my recent video at the end of January, you saw me scratching for bites and a few roach and perch at the local club pond. So I decided now the river's in good nick, I'd get back out and give it a go. Just bought the one rod, already set up with a bolo float. That's perfect for this stretch because it's a good 9 or 10 foot down the margins, and that's where I'm going to be fishing most of the weight down the line, get the bait down quickly, and I don't expect the fish to be high up in the water at this time of year. So let's see what's out there. And there's only about 3 things making me nervous about whether I'm going to catch or not. The first is I've never fished this peg in winter. It's a summer peg for me, and I've actually called it the aquarium in recent years, and that's because I've had so many different species out of here. There's a real ledge of cabbage down this inside margin in the summer months, and then it really steeply drops off into about 9 or 10 foot of water. That's where I like to run the float down, just over the ledge. And yeah, in the middle of summer I've had roach, dace, perch, gudgeon, eels, chub. I think that was just a bit of weed there, got me excited. Jack pike, I've had all kinds of fish, rudd, and yeah, it just seems to be a good swim for lots of variety, and it's at the end of a bend upstream, so the river comes into this bank and then straightens out, so you get a bit more flow down here than you do in the rest of this stretch. It's not a particularly fast flowing river the Wey, not in most of the stretches I fish, so there's a bit more pace here. But as I say, I've never fished it really outside of the summer months, so it is an untried spot in this at this time of year, so we'll have to see whether the fish are still here in any numbers. Secondly, as you can see, there's a real strong downstream wind here, and there usually is, to be honest. It's quite rare to fish the Wey with a lovely upstream wind, especially in this open area. I like this swim because there are some trees on the opposite bank that sometimes provide a little bit of protection, especially in the warmer months when there's leaves on them, of course. But yeah, there is a bit of a nasty downstream wind today, and that makes me a little concerned about how well I'll be able to present a bait. And the third reason for a little bit of caution is that there's definitely a bit of weed down there. It's amazing how long it lasts through the winter months. It's only really right at the end of the season that the floods have washed it all away. So I may have to shallow up a bit, but as I was saying, the third reason for being cautious about the fishing today is I finally brought out a lovely Christmas present from my darling wife in the shape of a drone. Gone all technical, and she knows that I've started enjoying making these videos and sharing my fishing with you whenever I can. So yeah, it was a very thoughtful and technical Christmas gift. So I've already done a little bit of filming. It's probably only the second time I've used it, trying to get my head around it and work out how to control it without causing any major public incidents. So the fact that I've brought my drone and managed to get a bit of footage, which obviously I'd love to share with you as part of a fishing video, you can almost guarantee that means bugger all fish. But we will see. And I've got a good few hours to give it a go. I've brought the usual selection of baits for a quick go on the river, which is a pint of casters, a bit of hemp and some red maggots. And I have also got some ground bait with me as well. I mean, that's probably getting a bit ambitious, but if there are any fish here and they need feeding, then I've got that option of putting a few balls in with every run down, and that will also help keep the bait nearer the deck, and rather than the loose feeding approach where in this kind of current the feed's going all the way down the peg. So that's another option I've got. But let's keep having the first few casts and see if there's anything there at all. Well, I'm getting a few bites on the first few trots down, but that's because there's still some weed in the peg and I'm dragging bottom. So I'm just going to shallow up just a few inches at a time until I get a good run through. I do like to hold back and ease a rig through the swim, but this peg does have a fair bit of weed in it. It's really clear during the summer, another reason I call it the aquarium. And so it's not always practical to be over depth and easing the rig down. So we'll keep shallowing up till we're just tripping bottom, and hopefully the next time the float goes under it might actually be a fish. Just laying the rig in, easing it back to let the olivette with the bait go down ahead of the float, and just trying to keep a tight line to it without affecting the trot, even in this downstream wind. It's a nice direct way to fish with a bolo and olivette. Nice stable presentation with the float, which helps in these windy conditions. We just have to hope the fish fancy a bait moving at the same pace as the river. And if not, I will put some depth back on and give it a go, easing it down or holding back. It's just the bottom seems very dirty from the initial few rundowns. It's actually nice to be sat on the bank, something I do sometimes if I'm taking a roving approach and trying different spots on the river, after chub perhaps. But I didn't intend to forget the chair today. Yeah, I'm still just tripping bottom, I think, there, or the weed, the dying weed that's on the bottom. Give it another run down or two, and if it's still happening, I'll take another inch or so off. Not only is the sun trying to come out, but we've got our first boat of the day coming up. With the mild air, gives it that extra surreal feeling of maybe a touch of spring in the air. Definitely need to shallow up a bit though. Oh yeah. And although boats can be a real curse on shallow canals, especially in the summer when they can really muddy it up and spread your feed all over the place, I've actually found on this stretch of the Wey it doesn't usually affect the fishing much. Not that we're actually catching anything yet, but such as the depth of the river, 9 or 10 foot down the margins, maybe 10 or 11 down the middle, doesn't seem to affect the fish. Certainly in summer when you're getting plenty of bites. That's a poor angler that blames the weather, but it's really strengthened, this downstream wind, since I've set up, and it's making presentation very tricky. Of course, it feels genius coming out with one rod already set up, get fishing within minutes of getting to your spot, until the conditions aren't quite what you thought they would be. It's not really wide enough to fish a feeder here or a bomb. And to be honest, Bollo's probably given me as much control as anything in these conditions, but I can tell it's going to be a tricky one. There you can see evidence that even though I've come up now twice, still tripping into that dying weed. So yeah, more shallowing up to do in order to get a clean run through. Feeding wise, going very light to begin with. It's a few grains of hemp and a few maggots. And I'll keep it that way until I get a sign of fish, whether it's a proper bite, nip maggot, or an actual fish. What's immediately apparent is it's not the same peg it is in the warmer months. During summer you can expect fish almost from the off, small stuff, bleak, small dace, small roach. It's just a case of whether you can keep the feed going in and get into the better fish towards the end. And there's certainly not that level of fish present in the peg, and of course that is one of the issues with winter fishing. As a very noisy plane goes over, you know, the fish in the flood conditions and the colder water do tend to shoal up more and find their preferred spots, and I wish I knew where those spots were. Sometimes they turn up in the same places from year to year. But there's no fun if you just go into the same pegs every time you go fishing, so I will know by the end of today whether there's any fish hang around here in the colder months or whether it's usually worth walking past or avoiding. But the nice thing about scratching for bites on a river, as opposed to a still water like I was trying last weekend, you've got the whole peg to search out, especially fishing with a float. There's not a match on here, I'm not restricted by pegging, I can run that bollo right down until I'm almost losing sight of it. And when there's this much flow coming through, which is a bit more pace than summer, what little feed is going in is going to go a fair way down the peg. So even if there's not many fish naturally holding up here, I keep that feed going in little and often, and I've always got the chance of pulling some upstream from further down, and I'm giving the whole peg a search with the float. You can also try different lines, and it's, as I say, the river narrows off here after a bend, which pushes the water through, deepens it out. And I'll largely try the line where I'm feeding, just a couple of rod lengths out. But you've also got that option to try beyond the feed, trying the slightly deeper water down the middle or just over the other side of the middle. Looks like a tree's come down in recent weeks on the far bank, and that restricts how far out I can fish, but it's the beauty of float fishing in a river. You can really explore the peg, as I say. And right at the end of the run, I have just hooked into something serious. You probably can't see the rod, but it is absolutely hooped over. It's only a light 14-foot Drennan acolyte. This feels absolutely solid, and that is a surprise, let's say. Oof, some scary moments. It's coming upstream fast. Oh, he's off. Oh, gutter. Genuine gutter. You want to see what a devastated John looks like. This is it. That was a proper fish. Possibly a chub. It's quite ponderous. Could have been a slab. You know what? It's cracked me off. I didn't think I was bullying it, but I am fishing light. £1.5 bottom for the winter conditions. Oh, that hurts. Well, I'll tackle back up again, and at least we know there's a few fish here. One fish here, bloody big one. Gutter. Well, welcome back, folks. I've taken a few deep breaths. Tried to get over the disappointment of that, but everyone watching will know, especially on a winter's day when you're not expecting a lot and you're filming, they'll know the pain of losing a proper fish like that early on in the session. So it's as good a time as any to show you the rig. Just put on some stronger £3 bottom, still to a small size 18. Just about to see that against my face. Quick change swivel and another number 8. There's a bit of extra weight for the telltale. Fishing near the bottom, a couple of number 8 droppers, and there's the Olivet held in place with 5 number 8s. Then you've got about another 7 foot up to the float. And here is the float, some Maver Finesse Signature 2 gram, so it's about 1.5 gram Olivet. Not a big bollo float, not a big weight. It's only a narrow stretch of river. It's really, as I say, just so I can fish with plenty of weight down the line, get that bait down quickly in the deep water. So we're back fishing again, and obviously the one positive I can take out of losing that very sizable fish was the fact there are some fish here. Until you've had that first bite, that first fish, you're almost a bit nervous about feeding even small amounts. The last thing you want to do if there's not many fish there to begin with is overfeed them. Well, that's given me a bit of confidence. I can keep trickling the maggots and hempen, maybe a few casters. And I've been thinking about it in the few minutes that I was tackling back up again or tying a new hook. And I think it's probably a chub, and a decent one at that. And I think there's a patch of dying weed down there at the end of the swim, and the chub has found it. And I'm not making excuses, but I think that's probably why I got cracked off. I mean, yes, I was fishing pretty light for a big fish, but I think that just that sense that it went a bit solid for a second And then the next thing I knew, I was reeling in what I thought was the fish moving upstream, but actually was a fair sized bit of weed on one of the dropper shots. So that's my theory, but let's stop the moaning now, keep fishing, and see if we can get something else. Well, now I've got another reason to try and catch a fish or two, get myself enough footage for a YouTube video, because just been chatting to a lovely couple. I think it was John and Michelle, but apologies if I've got that wrong. You'll recognise I'm talking about you if I say Peterborough. I was just talking to a couple of dog walkers, man and wife I think, or boyfriend and girlfriend, but he was from Peterborough, she was a local lass, but they've been living up in Peterborough for quite a while now, and I think they come down to Woking to visit her deceased parents, and they're obviously into fishing. I said I used to fish on the River Nene around Peterborough when I was a teenager with the Sheffield Juniors, and they were asking me about the fishing here, and I said I'd just lost what I thought was a really big chub. He could feel my pain, and yeah, he took the name of my channel. I told him a little bit about the book and the fact I was making a YouTube video. He saw the camera, and he said he'd check it out. So if I can catch a fish or two, make this into a video and get it on YouTube. So shout out to the couple I just met. I hope you're enjoying it. And on a positive note, losing that fish not only tells me that there's at least one or two knocking about, but it also pumps up the levels of hope and expectation, which us anglers know only too well, at least when the fish are biting. So I'm still getting the float pulled under occasionally when it's catching on a bit of weed. I don't want to shallow up any more because I'll be too far off the bottom. In fact, yeah, just tucked into a bit more weed there, right at the bottom of the swim. That's a smaller version of what was on the rig after being cracked off by that fish, but even though the float is sometimes being pulled under by the bottom, when it does go under, get that real quickening of the pulse now that I think it could be a fish. So it's all good. Let's just hope we can tempt another. Well folks, we're into another very solid fish. Very, very end of the swim. It's fighting just like the one I lost. Really solid, thumping weight. I suspect if we get to see this one, we might have an idea, a definite idea of what I lost. So my heart is in my mouth. I'm taking this very slow despite... Oh, he's off again! I don't know what happened there. Unbelievable. I feel like a bad angler now, but that's two fish, big fish, lost in the first hour or so. And this one's just pulled out, got the strong hook link on. I've got to say there's a lot of flow coming through the river. I was pretty much just holding it in the flow and gaining a tiny bit of line whenever I could, and that is really difficult, especially when I'm filming for you guys, and I've now lost the chance to show you not one but two proper fish on an otherwise very tricky winter's day. You know, there's clearly not a big shoal of fish here. I suspect again both of them chub. Right at the bottom of the swim, I think they're picking off the maggots that are coming down. So it's giving me hope to keep going, but that's pretty hard to take. So the hook tie's out again. This time I'm going for a 16. You got to keep learning from these things, and I've gone for a stronger hook link, now going for a bigger hook, even though I only pulled out, and I don't believe a small hook is necessarily to blame for that. I am fishing a double maggot. It does appear that there's going to be a few bigger fish here rather than a lot of smaller fish, so if I do hook a third, and let's bloody hope it's third time lucky, I just want to be on slightly stronger gear, slightly bigger hook. Again, just like the first one, that's given me the confidence to keep a bit of feed going in. Convinced it's chub coming up to the loose feed from further down the river. And let's try and show you folks at home that perseverance pays off. Third time lucky, as I say. And again, it shows there are fish here. Not many of them, but some biggies. This is unbelievable. Third time lucky, come on. I can't move this fish at the moment. Right at the bottom of the swim again. Solid curve in the rod. We've got some big rafts of pennywort coming down, which is really not going to help, but I will stand up if need be. You can see it coming past now. It's a bit closer in than the fish feels. Come on, fishing gods. Do not let this one get away. The pennywort is going further out. Oh God, do not get caught in that pennywort, please. I'm having to backwind at the moment, holding it against the float. Oh, this is tense. For me anyway. He's still on. We got it past the big raft of pennywort. It's a really solid feeling fish, just like the other two. Very little head movement. It's mid-river now, coming up towards where I am, and I'm a bit worried about that tree opposite. I could not face losing a third. Just seen the float. It's just hanging in the water. Very unusual fight, but just like the others. So again, if we see this, still an if, we may know what the other two were. And to backwind again. £3 main line, £3 bottom, size 16. Yeah, it's moving away again now. Oh, I could not bear to lose another. A couple of cyclists come in. And take this slow, John. Do not rush. I've only got a small silver net, landing net, but should be fine. Just being patient. It's a real heavyweight. Giving it as much as I dare. It's coming up towards the top, right in by the bank. I think it's a chub from a little glance, as predicted, but it's just made its way out again, using the current to its advantage. Again, giving it as much pressure as I dare. I think it's got that black tail of a chub. Thank God there's no more pennywort coming down. Every time it comes near the surface, it kicks back again. I think you can see this on camera, I'm not sure. Oh, talk about nerves. Yeah, it's a lovely chub. Not a monster, but a very nice fish after all this effort. And he's safely just in the silver net. It might actually be a bit bigger than I thought. Yeah, lovely fish. Just in the net. Let's sort him out and I'll give you a look. Well, you heard me say it's not a monster. I think I was actually not doing myself or the fish justice, because that is a beautiful 4 pound 5 ounce chub, or chevin as they're sometimes known. Always be a chub to me. Big mouth, big belly, great scrap, lovely old fish, really worth the wait. What a beautiful creature, and I can't believe I've lost two like it, but third time lucky, and that makes up for it. Lovely fish, only just fit in the net. There you go, a last look at him. Back he goes. leapt to freedom in the end, and that is a very welcome fish. Third time lucky. And of course there might be a few of you watching thinking, what's he doing messing around with £1.5 bottoms and light rods? He should be fishing the tip with a bit of cheese paste or bread flake, stronger gear. But obviously didn't know what was going to be biting today, and as I say, I was going to be fishing for bites, so I've learned something. Even if I don't catch anything more today, I might be back later in the season with some proper chub gear. Well, I've been working away for another half hour since that fish, and I'll tell you one thing, there's definitely no small fish in the area. As I say, in winter they tend to shoal up, and if you land on them you're in for a brilliant day, but the only bites I've had in the 2 or 3 hours of being fishing have been those big chub. But they can eat a lot of grub, those fish, so I've been keeping the maggots going in, and it feels like now's about the right time for a couple of shout outs, beyond the nice couple that I met from Peterborough. The first is to Jim Baxter. Now, if you've watched the very first YouTube video I made on this channel, or you want to go and watch those videos, check them out. They are interviews with a very dear friend of mine and mentor of my fishing mentor called Jim Baxter. He was an excellent fisherman, still is an excellent fisherman, but back in the day he used to fish for Barnsley Blacks. He's won the national with them, captained the Sheffield team, and taught me so much as a young lad when I was fishing the match scene, the national match scene with the Sheffield juniors and intermediates. And Jim and I have been chatting away as always on text over the last few weeks, and we got talking about flavours, and we were talking about good winter and particularly roach flavours. We got onto aniseed and turmeric and one or two other classics, and he told me about one that one of his friends always swore by for roach, which was geranium. There you go, geranium oil or essential oil, and that's a bottle I got off a well-known auction website just this week, on Jim's advice, and I put on a few drops. It's very powerful stuff. It smells unusual. It smells kind of floral, like the name suggests, but almost like you might get in a public toilet or something like that, kind of like an air freshener type smell to it, which, you know, doesn't make you think of fish, but he and some friends of his swear by it for roach. So don't need a lot. Put a few drops on the maggots earlier before I came out, and well, Jim, not caught any roach, but it seems to work for chub. Hooked 3, landed 1. So thanks for that tip, and I'm going to keep trying it throughout this the end of this season. And the other shout out is to my good mate Andy and his son Harry up in Sheffield. I know you often watch these videos, so I hope you're enjoying this one, and hope you're both well. I'll see you again in the summer for the matches with our Dronfield Woodhouse club. But I was thinking of Andy earlier because this swim that I call the aquarium, it's actually a spot that we quite often fish in the summer when he comes down to stay with me. And we've had some really good days here. Loads more bites, loads more small fish than we've had today. Than I've had today rather. But yeah, thinking of you, mate. Hope you're well and enjoyed seeing me lose a few fish. And yeah, don't forget you owe me some dates, Andy, for when you're going to come down again this summer. And talking of fish, I'm going to keep plugging away, give it another half hour or so. Say there's not been much action since that last one, but yeah, they can take a lot of feed, those fish, so keep the bait trickling in, the scent of those flavoured maggots washing off downstream. Some very noisy parakeets flying overhead, I don't know if you can hear them. Well, that's it, the end of a really interesting and enjoyable pleasure session. Not bad for early February. Okay, so we only landed one, but enjoyed some drama along the way, and what a fish to land if you're only going to catch one. Really happy. Appreciate your ongoing support, so if you're not subscribed already, please do so. Link below. And if you are, thanks again for watching, for tuning in again. Give it a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you again soon.